I'm a senior solution strategist. I'm senior because I'm 57, and the solution strategy side is because I know the Microsoft products reasonably well. Okay, two jokes already. So just by the way, Auckland people laughed at every single joke. We are recording these sessions, okay? My mother in South Africa is going to see this, and if you don't laugh at my jokes, she's going to feel really bad for me. So I'm just sort of setting you up now for positive. My session, Fusion5 Robotics. We've had this amazing company join us at Fusion5. Fusion5 Robotics, cleverest people on the planet, make wonderful robots. Unfortunately, not very good organization. And as I've got to bring them into the organization, and at Fusion5, we love Microsoft Power Platform and Azure AI. Now, you might recognize one of those names, and the other one might sound familiar, or you might not recognize it all. That's cool. That's the Azure AI part. I'm going to play 3 roles today. So my first role is going to be the CTO, who is responsible for ensuring that Fusion5 Robotics comes across into organization and adopts the way we work. I'm going to be a Power Platform developer. Some of you might have heard the term citizen developer. Same thing, but slightly different. We'll talk about it in a bit. And then we're going to do a bit of a business analyst role. But before I do that, I want to quickly check on that survey you did. Just have a look at the results so we can get a sense of where we are. So let's do a quick click and hit a refresh. Let's see what the different responses were. Okay, cool, 44%. Generative AI, nope. And then about half, sort of no. That's fantastic. I use ChatGPT occasionally. I use it a lot. Rarely and never, fantastic. We'll talk a bit about ChatGPT. That's actually really good usage of Power Platform. And this is the most surprising result we've had the whole roadshow. We've done 6 of these. Every time Power BI comes right on top. Power Apps right on top is actually a bit new for us. Cool, that's fantastic. So we have a sense of what the room's like. We'll spend some time demystifying these, and then we'll make it a bit more practical. So I like to show things. I don't like to talk to things about too much. As a CTO, I've made a few decisions for Fusion5. We love low-code application development. So anybody, if you use Power Platform, you're really using low-code application development. The idea behind low-code application development is I don't need a developer to do the startup stuff. Doesn't mean developers go away, but they're not part of the initial journey. Why we like low code is not just because it's a cool thing to do, and it's, as Christy mentioned earlier, it's not just a shiny little bauble that we want to attract. It's because we know that over the last couple of years, and I worked at Microsoft 7.5 years ago when low code started becoming part of their rollout with Power Apps. We know from what the analysts are doing, saying that in 2025, about 80% of the application development in organizations will be low code, or the applications we have now will be augmented through low code. You all use Dynamics, right? Sort of show of hands if you want to sort of get the circulation going. Okay, Wire doesn't use Dynamics, no problem. Okay, I'm picking on you a bit there. If you use Dynamics, or any of those products, you are actually using a low-code solution. It uses something called model-driven apps, which is augmented through low-code. If you have in automation, so Dynamics, it uses Power Apps or Logic Apps, which are basically like an older version of each other, which is low-code solution platform as well. So we love the low-code space, and that's where we're going, because we know we're going to be future-proofing some of our technology. Why we've chosen the Power Platform is because, specifically Microsoft, it's been the top leader when it comes to low-code solutions for the last couple of years. Last 3 years, actually. These other guys that are here, a lot of people go, well, those are your competitors. No, we integrate into them. So if you've got ServiceNow or SAP or Salesforce, we don't mind. We can actually connect them. We can actually use them as data sources. And it's really cool that Microsoft have been there for the last 3 years. They're like the All Blacks, always on top. I had a joke that I did the other roadshows. I'm not going to do it this time because of last week, for the weekend. But typically, my All Blacks are amazing. Everybody has a glitch. It's not a problem. But that's really why we're there. We know it's going to be around for a very long time. It's a massive investment area from Microsoft. So from a platform perspective, I know I'm going to do well if I go that route. What about generative AI? Everybody seen the Matrix? Cool. Red pill, all truth will be revealed. Blue pill, stay where you are. And this is a bit of a red pill, blue pill moment. And the reason why is because generative AI is here. Last year, November, this thing called ChatGPT was switched on, and half of us thought the Terminator was real, and the other half went, this is the best technology ever. So what's happened with generative AI, the people that know things reckon that by 2024, that's next year, 40% of enterprise applications will have embedded conversational AI. Let's unpack that quickly. Somebody asked a little earlier about Copilot, right? I will talk about Copilot, but conversational AI means that I can actually have a conversation with the AI in real language terms. I go, hi, how are you? Or say, hi, I'm pregnant. It'll go, oh, so congratulations. That's actually a demo we could do. But the idea is that it'll be embedded into the applications you're working with. Right now, there are 25 different versions of these generative AI. It's called Copilots that are going to be launched by Microsoft in the next couple of months. Some are available already. We'll demo about 3 of them today. And we also know from what the analysts have found out by interviewing some CEOs that 38% indicated that they definitely will be seeing generative AI be part of their future. What are they going to use it for? Customer retention, revenue growth, and cost optimization. Let me decode that for you in real terms. Do more with less. That's a massive trend we're seeing with all the vendors. That's actually a Microsoft message they actually show on screen. Do more with less. And they're seeing generative AI as being something you can do more with less with. Let's quickly unpack what we mean by generative AI and how it fits into our space. Everybody heard of OpenAI? If you haven't, it's cool. I didn't know too much about OpenAI. We all heard about these guys, ChatGPT, right? Cool. ChatGPT is actually just an application. The cleverness behind ChatGPT comes from OpenAI. They've been working with something called generative AI for about 6 years, and last year in November they went, hey, there's ChatGPT. ChatGPT uses these wonderful things. They are called AI models. Don't stress about how they work or how they got there. My mind gets boggled when I actually go down that rabbit hole, and I have. But what models do is they basically are fine-tuned to do certain things. Now, before we go down this route, I want to quickly just go back to what the different models are. Traditional AI was what was called logic-based. I'm really oversimplifying it, but this is how traditional AI worked. You said, if you want to teach it, for instance, how to recognize a picture of a cat, you'd go, this is a picture of a cat, and then you'd sort of go, this is another picture of a cat, and it would do his little thing. You go, another picture of a cat, and it would sort of figure out where the dots were, and then you pick a picture of a dog and say, this is not a cat. You don't tell us it's a dog, because you aren't training it to recognize dogs. You're training it to recognize cats. You can show it a fish and an elephant and all weird things. At the end of the day, when you want to use it, you show a picture and say, what is this? It sort of checks all the dots, so it uses little dots on the picture and goes, it's a cat, and I'm 68% sure. And that's it. And that's when it stops. It just recognizes. These models, these generative AI models, are trained off the whole internet up to September 2021. They said, read everything, watch everything, look at pictures, look at videos, look at code, and try and get as much data as you can. And then they fine-tune these models. I think there's about 32 million different points which they fine-tune. So what these models do is they understand what you're asking. And when you say, how do I make chicken noodle soup? It'll say, this is how you make chicken noodle soup. There's a recipe. There's the best response time. I can go, that's cool, but I'd like vegan chicken noodle soup. And it goes, sure. Here's tofu as a replacement. The cooking time has changed. So it's like I'm having a conversation with a person. So when I do something like this, where I say, I'm not asking Jonathan, who's in the back, I need an increase, I just give it a prompt, and it generates my request for increase. Quite amazing, right? It's actually freaking amazing. These different models do different things. So these two over here are very much language specific. This one, DALL-E, is great. You can give it a prompt and it will generate a picture. So if you said, what happened if I crossed the rock in Donald Trump? It would do something like that. It's quite cool. I'm not sure if the rock would be offended or Donald Trump would be offended. You probably say, that's my actual real body. I don't know what you heard. I think it might actually be him. So these models are fine-tuned for the tasks that they need to do. And that's where the Copilot stuff comes in. Through their relationship with OpenAI, Microsoft have access to all these models. Dan mentioned earlier about these data center regions. So they're basically big buildings with a whole bunch of computers inside them. every single data region on the globe at some stage will have a copy of all these models available as a service in Azure. So the same way you go to your app store and say, I want to install Instagram, you could go to Azure and say, I now want to use Azure Open AI. And you'll have access to all those models to build your own data on. That alone is highly impressive. Here's the kicker and why you should do it. Would anyone like to guess? Of course not. It's Monday afternoon. When you go to ChatGPT, Azure Open AI, their business is to build models. Okay? That's all they do. They serve no other purpose. They want to build a product that they can ship out for somebody to use. In order to do that, every time you search in ChatGPT or ask it to do anything, it retrains itself on the data you input. ChatGPT and OpenAI will tell you that they don't use your data for anything, it can't go anywhere, but they do retrain it. The chances of them using your data and sending it off to some strange place is minuscule, but it's still a security risk because it's my data. So I want to make sure that it works well. Another, not problem, is that the way because they are there to create models, they don't care about the content. They use the internet as a data source. As I mentioned, September 2021, they stopped getting information. They just now retrain their model to be cleverer. So if I asked the ChatGPT for information for something that was created after September 2021, it wouldn't use it. It has no context of it. Yeah, I don't collect any data. We don't retrain the models. We're not in the business of training models. We're in the business of providing services. So everything's anonymous. It's in your tenant. Your security principles that you have apply to it. So whatever security you have around things like SharePoint, file shares, that applies. And I forgot the third point, but it'll come to me. I can then also use it, came to me, I can use it against my own data. I'll show you that when we do the demo. What did Microsoft do with all these wonderful things? They created something called Copilot. And I'm going to let the video play. Hopefully it shouldn't have any sound this time. What Microsoft did with these models, they went, right, how can we help people with this generative AI in our own applications? And they started this last year before we even had ChatGPT. And they came up with something called Copilots. And it's an in the flow of work assistant. So think about you're inside an application and you need to do something, and it's something that has to generate an output. This is what your Copilot does. It's like literally like the Copilot on a plane. Sits on the side, pilot flies, pilot says, check the right engine, I don't know, PSI, and he goes, well, everything's okay, Sally. If you've seen the movie, you'll understand that went badly wrong. Thank you. My favorite person. So that's what it does. It's not there to complete your task. It's not there to take over your job. It's there to be your assistant. So in the Copilot world, there's going to be a Copilot for just about everything. Everything you do in the Microsoft world will have a Copilot. I think the estimate right now we know of is about 25 different Copilots. The Copilot for Word, this is an example of it actually working. I can go and say create content with Copilot, draft a proposal, point it at my data, and say create a draft, and it will create a draft for me. They clapped hands in Auckland when I showed them this. Do you guys want to try? No? Okay, fine. Don't worry, I've got a couple of clap handy ones. So this is the intent. It generates content. Because it knows where you are, because you've logged on. Remember when you go to Outlook right now and you go create new email and you go add attachment, it gives you a list of the documents you just worked on? Uses the same concept here. So it knows who you are, what you're doing, what you currently worked on. If I use the one for Outlook, I can go into it, go add Copilot, and ask Copilot to draft my email for me. Jonathan is going to do an amazing demo on Copilot for Sales later. Copilot for Sales is generally available. So if you have Dynamics Sales Enterprise, you can actually switch it on. It takes about 15 minutes and use it right now. Guess how much it costs if you have the enterprise license? Nothing. Absolutely free. Cool. So that's what a Copilot does. What if I don't have an application that has a Copilot? Well, we know we have this Azure Open AI thing that we can build our own data models. We have access to our own data in our tenant. You can go build your own Copilot. You can go take that and say, I'm going to configure a model to do what I want it to do. I'm going to give it instructions, give it access to my data. I can build my own applications. I can build my own apps that I actually make available to my customers or internally to my staff as well. Exciting? You have to say yes, because my mother's watching, remember. My mom is watching you guys. Cool. Let's not forget the Power Platform. One of the reasons we said we love Power Platform and generative AI, Power Platform has always been a platform that allows us to rapidly build applications. So I'll quickly do a run through the circle. About 50% of the people weren't too familiar. Set of applications under one banner called the Power Platform, and they're all low code. So I basically start off without writing a line of code. I open the application, I start doing something. When you checked in today, the app that you chose your name and pushed the button and printed out, that is an app called a Power App. It connects to Dataverse, the same data set that you get your data from for Dynamics, and it connected to a printer over the internet through a web node. So that was automation. Okay, that's the type of stuff you can do. We can build websites through Power Pages. Big thing here, it sits on top of your own data inside of Dynamics. So you can basically build B2C portals. You saw that with Tom. Power BI, a lot of you are familiar with, is where you can use low code to surface information and data in really rich dashboard and reports without having to understand the underlying data, as long as you have the data sources. Power Automate is one of the most powerful applications we have in the Power Platform. It lets us do normal BPM type stuff. So when this happens, send an email. If this happens, insert a record, type of stuff we expect. Also access to AI, so we can actually embed AI into the process. And during the flow of work, actually say, right, yeah, let the AI take